Whether it's bad planning, bad luck, bad timing, or bad inventions, well-intentioned bad decisions have plagued history for thousands of years. Welcome to Historic Hindsight.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Historic Hindsight. I'm John, that's Tom, and today we're going to talk to you about Pikachu!
That's right, Johnny. We're going to talk to you about how Pikachu can be used to cure depression. And by Pikachu, I mean... Yeah,
by Pokemon Go, right?
Yeah, Pokemon Go. You play Pokemon Go, you
all
snug
the time,
him.
yeah.
Or what you do is you take Pikachu and you hook him up to some electrodes, and then you take those electrodes and you put them up to your temple, and then you zap the shit out of yourself, and apparently that cures depression in what is known as electroshock therapy or electroconvulsive therapy. So, yeah, and this isn't some archaic thing that was done decades ago that we don't...
40s and 50s, right?
Yeah, and today, and still used.
And today. Still.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. So we are the old-timey
medicine
like,
coming.
Horror movie, mental insane asylum
coming.
Bit where they take them to the second floor or whatever, and they come back and they're gone.
Yep, still do that.
Brain dead. We're doing that.
Yep.
Today.
So today the treatment uses between 70 to 120 volts of electricity from 100 milliseconds up to 6 seconds to create an electrocurrent that will, reset the brain, so to speak, or at least that's the idea. And by reset the brain, I mean it's going to cause you to have a seizure. And their thought is that by having a seizure, it will get their brain back into alignment the way that it's supposed.
I'm sorry. I was not aware that a seizure was just a human hard reset. Apparently, that's what they're saying it is, though.
I don't.
So 70 to 100 volts. That I've done the 9-volt battery on my tongue to test it to see if make sure it's still good, and it doesn't hurt, but
doesn't feel good.
You get a little thing with it.
This is
so 70
times.
So 70
10
10 times it essentially.
Yep.
Yikes. Okay.
And then today's not gonna be talking about the ethical use of it, like in the current form, and whether we should or shouldn't do it. But we're gonna give a little bit of the dark history on where it came from.
How did it start? Maybe. Why did we start doing this?
Yep. So ECT goes all the way back to 1938, and it's done by an Italian physician, Ugo Cerletti. Cerletti.
Yeah.
I got that one. I can do some Italian.
Yeah.
Cerletti. I can do that.
That's a me, Mario. That's all it is.
He used it to treat depression, which, by the way, like I said, is still what it's kind of used for today is depression.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the idea here is that the previous thing that was used to treat mental health at that time was a lobotomy, where they take a metal rod and shove that into your temple and go, "Yup, fixed it." And by fixed it, they turned you into a fucking zombie where you're
basically
really lethargic.
Didn't they basically just stab a portion of the brain that was meant for some type of functional,
like the frontal lobe,
thing or whatever? Yeah, and they're just fuck that up.
And it makes you really passive.
And, now you're fine.
But if you're a paranoid schizophrenic who's violent, stabbing that front part of the brain makes you not violent anymore, and it makes you not do anything anymore. It makes you sit in the chair and just stare off into the blank nothingness void of.
Which, kind of to be fair to the people at the time, if you're a paranoid schizophrenic who's violent, you're in a mental hospital.
Yeah.
Forever, anyway. And so, at least you're less of a problem for the attendants or whatever. What do they call it?
Yep, you're right. Yeah, the attendants, I don't know what they call them.
Residents?
No,
not resident.
I don't know, nurse?
I don't know.
I don't
know.
Doesn't matter.
Leave it in the comments. Tell us what it is.
At first, ECT was used to induce seizures, like I said, because they thought inducing a seizure would cure schizophrenia. It doesn't.
Why?
They
just thought maybe.
Yeah, I don't.
Maybe we can do this, and
I'm not entirely, because they thought it was something to do with thinking that the frontal lobe and there's an incorrect electric pathway or something in the brain, and by creating a seizure, it would straighten it all out.
Okay, so literally, it's a hard reset.
And to be fair, one of the side effects of electroshock therapy is temporary amnesia, and a lot of times when patients do get electroshock therapy, they do forget that they're sad about things, and they don't remember the treatment at all itself. And they also they tend to start, like if you're in a schizophrenic state, it does stop you from hallucinating in that schizophrenic state.
From doing a lot of things.
But it also stops you from doing a lot
so
of
this
things.
was you can see why it would keep going. This was a moderately successful experiment. At
Yes.
least. They were seeing results that were favorable according to what.
I mean, there's got to be at least something sort of to it. We'll get into that a little bit later because obviously it's still used today, ethically or unethically, but it's still used today. Now, his initial the initial medication that was out there for schizophrenia, besides a lobotomy, was also a chemical medication that would also induce seizures. Because it's not like he was some nut that thought, oh well, seizures fix it. This is actually something that was common medicine at the time, because the next best treatment was a chemical medication that would do the same thing. So he's trying to find an alternative to it that is a lot cheaper than chemicals. Electricity only costs
right. And I would imagine also with anytime you're dealing with chemical stuff, there's going to be other things in it that might cause other side effects or reactions, or people might be allergic to it, might not be able to do it. And so everybody can get shocked, right?
Yeah.
Just ask the cops.
Yeah. Don't tase me, bro. So he begins his experiments by practicing on dogs at first. And
You ever met a sad dog?
Well, he's trying to get a seizure. He's seeing if electricity can induce a seizure.
Just giving seizures to dogs. That's nice.
Yep.
Christ almighty.
And like I said, and the positive side effect of this is they learn that they're going to put you in the United States. So the very first use of electroshock therapy was at the Clinic for Mental and Nervous Diseases in Rome on April 11th, 1938. Their patient of choice, who's nameless, is a homeless vagrant that was delusional and speaking gibberish, and the local police picked him up, thought he was just another schizophrenic homeless man that didn't have any family or anything, and we're like, well, we're going to do you a favor by taking you to the local insane asylum where maybe they'll give you some medication. Little did they know that they were inadvertently volunteering him to take part in a experimental procedure that he had absolutely no consent or say in whatsoever.
Which that's a bit of a problem. Can I say I'm a little bit surprised given the time frame of this that this was not tried and invented by Nazi scientists?
Well, you got to remember, it is 1938. Rome is fascist, and Rome is, Italy.
Okay,
Italy
so
is
sort
a
of
part.
was.
Yeah, Italy.
So, yeah.
Italy is a part of the whole Nazi thing. So
okay, so
it
was a little bit of that.
Yeah, so it's
because at this point in time, and I mean, despite how horrid everything was that they did, when you don't have any sort of like moral obligation to conduct ethical studies, you can learn a whole lot real fast.
Yeah, you sure.
Sure, it comes at the cost of thousands or millions of lives, but you learn a lot of science real quick. He was at least doing it on dogs to start with to see if they got seizures. That's not common practice among the Nazis from what I've understood.
No, they just kind of started.
They just kind of started with the people, and it's just like, oh, well, you're...
It didn't work.
Less than people according to us, so it's fine. It's the same thing, essentially.
So Cerletti was looking for a guinea pig that was expendable, that nobody would be looking for if things went wrong. But clearly they knew that there was something going on that wasn't quite right, because from their initial reports, the nursing staff continued to look out in the hall to see if anybody was coming while they hooked this guy up to electric probes. So I think everybody's like, this is probably a little unethical, but as long as nobody watches, we're fine.
It's I'm sure they had a bit of a moral dilemma themselves, even if it isn't by law unethical. Like, you're still, these are people, especially like the nurses and everybody else, they are nurses helping a doctor who's telling them what to do.
Yeah.
And what do we learn from World War II is I just followed orders. So yeah, they're trying to make sure no one sees them while they're following those orders. Can't blame them.
Well, and by those dogs that we were talking about earlier, that he tested on, half of them died. Knowing that half of them, knowing that half of his animal patients died, he thought, "Yep, totally ready to test on humans." Even though half the animals
you're
died.
Looking at it rather pessimistically, Tommy. Half of them survived.
Yeah, that's true. He started
glass half empty, half full.
Yeah, he started with 80 volts of electricity. Now remember, the intent is to give a seizure, which he believed by inducing the seizure, would reset the brain back to normal. After proving that a human brain could take those 80 volts, because he had shocked the 80 volts, there was a quick convulse, but not a seizure, just a quick while he's being shocked, and then...
And now, maybe you don't know this, maybe somebody else can help. Why does electricity induce seizures?
I have no idea. I can't answer that.
Or I guess if somebody knows, is a seizure some sort of overactive electrical bits and stuff going on in your brain, or what?
Put it in the comments, because I have no idea.
Let us know.
No idea.
But it can induce it in some way. It somehow sends the body into a shock type seizure reaction.
So 80 volts went in. Patient was fine. He now actually was
shook a
little, but was awake the whole time talking. They questioned him about it, and he goes, what just happened? Where am I? Why am I hooked up to all this shit? Like, what's going on?
What is it? What is this?
It's like they could now understand him, so they're like, success. Yeah. But I wanted to see a seizure, so to make sure I see a seizure, 90 volts this time. So they upped it.
Okay, but only by 10. That's only by 10. I mean, he's going in increments. That's good. He didn't just straight. He's like, oh, it took 80. Let's do 160. Let's double it and see what happens.
Nope, 90. This time the patient would convulse for a bit longer, but no seizures. He did collapse on the bed. His heart did stop, and he wasn't breathing for a few seconds afterwards. He did shoot up after a few seconds of being legally dead because his heart stopped and he wasn't breathing. He actually shot up in bed after those few seconds, and he began singing a song, Johnny. He began singing one of the popular songs of the time.
Hello, my darling. Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling.
Yeah, whatever Italian song was on the radio.
Oh my god. So they obviously, I mean, they tapped into something there. Like that, it's kind of like people going into comas and waking up speaking different languages or something.
They hit that.
They crossed some wires, so something's working.
Something's working
in
somewhere.
Some fashion. Maybe not successfully, but it's working.
It's working. But again,
results are being getting had.
Salietti is not happy because there was no seizure, so he goes 110 volts this time. By this time, the other doctors that were in the room and the nurses are like, maybe we should give him a break. This is just bang bang bang. This is an afternoon of testing. Oh my god! Can we at least let him relax and we'll
let the brain recover a little bit, please?
Pick it back up tomorrow. And Sirlietti's like, no. Did you see that? He came up and he was singing. Let's see what else we can get him to do. Third test. This time he does actually have a seizure. Then stops breathing, heart stops for 48 seconds this time before he wakes up briefly, sits up in bed and then falls back down sleeping with normal,
with a heartbeat.
Yeah, with normal, vitals.
So with electricity, they stopped his heart for 48 seconds.
Yes.
And then also with electricity, we restart the heart.
Gave him a seizure.
Via the stuff.
Yep.
Electricity is wild, man.
Electricity is wild. Gave him a seizure. After this, Sirlietti proclaims that electroshock therapy is a success. It doesn't induce seizures, and he started singing and talking normal, so must have worked.
Peer review that shit. You do it. It's going to work every time, just like that.
Yep. By the 1940s, it becomes wildly popular across the world, including the United States, to treat all sorts of mental disorders in state-run psychiatric hospitals. And a lot of this, again, is more, how do we make these violent... And look, I was a social worker for years. I worked in a facility that dealt with severely mentally, disabled individuals, and they, violence towards staff is a thing. And as a staff member that had violence on to them, I can understand the idea of going, hey, can we figure out a way to stop us from getting our asses kicked?
Right.
Hence the lobotomies and hence chemical, induced, whatever they call that, chemical induced comas and that kind of stuff.
Comas, yeah. And I think at a certain point you have to kind of take a look at, if you're going to try to understand how this came about and why, you have to take a look at the position that all of the employees were put in.
Yeah.
They are in a hostile environment.
And
have to be with people who just, they're schizophrenics, they have multiple personalities, they are violent tendencies, they could be a danger at any time, and that's, they're going to try to find any way they can to subdue those aggressive tendencies, and this obviously worked to some extent. Now, I looked it up just a minute ago. Electrocution, death penalty,
yes,
uses between 500 and 2,000 volts.
Oh,
so it's quite a range. I don't know why it's such a large range. But essentially, they were making him 1/5 dead with their 110 volts or 100 volts or whatever, which makes sense because his heart stopped for 48 seconds. So
1/10 dead. There you go. Now, like I said, if used under the right conditions with consent, the FDA at least has said that there isn't necessarily anything wrong with electroshock therapy.
Now, my wife did say, I told her that this is what we were doing tonight, and she said one of her friends' husbands was like at a point where he was suicidal, very depressed and everything else, and checked himself into a facility and requested electroshock therapy, and it had seemed to work for him.
Yeah, and
it was a kind of a night and day difference, and
I am not.
Maybe they've ironed out the wrinkles a little bit.
Well, they're
figured out the right voltage.
So by the 1940s, consent, however, wasn't there, and understanding of mental health wasn't great. So at that time, there was no anesthetics used. Currently, today, we do use anesthetics with it, so we put the patient mostly under, so they're not, awake while this shit's going on.
So instead of doing it to the patient, you are doing it to the brain and allowing them to not feel any of that.
And they also use muscle relaxers because the early tests of this would cause such high seizures and convulsions that it would break the spine.
Break the spine? I thought you were just going to say it would tear their muscles out.
No, they would.
People broke their spine through convulsing?
That on enough of an occasion that they started giving them muscle relaxers. Now, the problem with the muscle relaxers are that they were giving them such high doses that they weren't able to move. And so if you take somebody who's delusional, having hallucinations, a paranoid schizophrenic, and you strap them down on a table,
and then paralyze them,
punch them full of chemicals that paralyze them, and then shock the hell out of the brain, I can only imagine how terrifying that is for them and what they're going through.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, the entire situation for somebody who really doesn't know what's going on, just being strapped down is enough to... I mean, you strap me down, even if you told me I'm strapping you down, I'm going to start freaking out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a bit claustrophobic. Like, it's not going to... Like, that's what... I'm a bit terrified that at some point in my life I'm going to be, like, involuntarily checked into a mental hospital and I'll never be able to get out. Because I won't be able to convince them that
that you're normal,
not insane
and
or whatever.
You can get electroshock therapy in that case, Johnny. Because
and then I'd just be a robot. I wouldn't.
Yeah, you wouldn't know.
It's terrifying to me.
And all these uses for it, like I said, for currently in modern day, we do use it for suicidal ideation. We do use it for schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
We do use it for like other mental health disorders, depression, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But back when they started in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, we're like, we can use it for anything. And one of those such uses was gay conversion therapy, Johnny. Come on. The original idea of gay, the original idea of gay conversion therapy was kicked off in 1899 by a German psychiatrist. 1899 by German psychiatrist Albert von Schreck-Notzing, who claimed that he turned a gay man straight with 45 hypnotherapy treatments and several trips to a brothel. So this sparked the whole idea that you can take a gay man and turn him straight.
Now, I was pretty sure that homosexuality arose in like the 60s or 70s with the hippie movement and
no, the homosexuality has always been.
Are you telling me that homosexuality has been around for longer than that?
Yeah, I'm telling you that's
perhaps throughout the entirety of the human race.
Yep, I am telling you.
Are you telling me it might be a natural phenomenon that occurs in the wild too, Tommy?
I'm saying that there are monkeys that have sex with male monkeys on male monkeys, so it happens. Anyways,
maybe they need some electroshock therapy.
The first use of electroshock therapy in gay conversion was Robert Galbraith Heath, who's a psychiatrist in New Orleans, who's going to pioneer using of electroshock therapy and conversion treatment. And mind you, that they actually used lobotomy previously in gay conversion therapy. So you're gay, don't want to be gay, we're going to lobotomize you. Now you're not. Now you're not thinking about anything. So straight you are.
Now, was this self-loathing homosexuals who wanted to not be that, or was this my cousin, brother, uncle, whatever might be gay and we need to zap the hell out of him and maybe give him a lobotomy
a little bit of both, Johnny.
Get rid of it.
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I'm sure that there were definitely the people who were self-loathing and went in there and there was definitely the people
right, they're like, why because of the way that we treated them, they felt they were broken in some way and wanted to fix it because of course, like, why, if you're going to be hated by everybody, why would you
not? So anyway. And then there's definitely the parents who sent
that's a different podcast.
Definitely parents who sent their kids to do this too. In addition to the shock therapy that was often not consensual in these treatments, he would hire prostitutes and subject his patients to heterosexual porn, which is hilariously stupid because when I hear heterosexual porn, I'm assuming that it's straight porn, like man on woman,
male female.
So yes. You're still subjecting this gay man to a male body.
Yeah.
So
They do. Are they not unaware that straight men and women both enjoy watching heterosexual porn?
Yeah, and yeah, I guess I don't know.
Like, it's like that. Like Ron White has an entire joke about how like every guy's a little bit gay, right? Because like,
yeah, I love that.
He's
joke.
like, you ever watch porn? Oh yeah, you just watch lesbian porn? No, I watch man fucking woman. And then they're like, you like seeing a little shriveled up? No, I like a big fat cock. And then
I did not know about that. Yeah. So, and then if that didn't work, Johnny, if electroshock therapy is subjecting to straight porn and lots of prostitution, that didn't work, then they were going to use...
So it's like prostitution, like would
he'd
like,
buy him a hooker.
So they hired somebody to rape them.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Great. Just want to make sure that was clear.
Yeah, we're clear, yeah.
Because that's what happened. They hired somebody to rape these men.
If that didn't work, they would use electroshock therapy as an aversion therapy. So they would show them pictures. They would show them pictures of gay pornography and the male form naked, and then they would shock the shit out of them. Going, didn't like that, did you? If I do this enough, every time you see a man naked, you're gonna think, ow, I don't like that. And so instead of it happening the way they thought, instead they Pavlov dogged these people into they Pavlov dogged these people.
I see something I like and I'm getting electrocuted. Now I like electrocution. And this is where like that electrocution fetish was born.
You're probably 100% right on that one. Yeah. So now, aside from the gay therapy conversion treatment, electroshock therapy was super common in treating women with postpartum depression, hypersexuality. So if you're
why are we treating women for hypersexuality?
at this time, not to get into a huge, because this is a whole other thing. The first dildo or vibrator came out as because if they enjoyed sex, which they weren't supposed to do, it was supposed to be for making babies. So if the women enjoyed sex and were seeking out sex, they would go to a doctor. The doctor would massage the demons out of them. By massage, he's finger blasting them until they get an orgasm. And then one way to do this at home to save money from those doctor bills is they created a vibrator, and the electronic device that vibrated, and the women can massage themselves to get the demons out. That's true how like vibrators and stuff came about.
To get the demons out.
Because they thought a hypersexualized woman was an evil woman. So they would use electroshock therapy if you were a very...
So they gave her sexual pleasure at any time she wanted to make her less hypersexual.
Well, there's that treatment, or there's the electroshock treatment where they shock the hell out of your brain because you're like, all right, you like sex too much. We're gonna shock
time
you.
To break you.
Which what guy marries a woman?
That's what I'm getting at.
Nope, she's got too. Well, I mean, unless I guess she's she's
fair,
fucking your neighbor, that might be.
Well,
a problem.
no. I mean, to be fair, Viagra had not existed. At this point.
That's true.
And
that's true.
I'm guessing a lot of 50, 60-year-old men were marrying 18 to 22-year-old women
that had a drive that was higher than theirs. Yeah, you were onto something there. And they would also use it for pregnancy depression while the baby, while the mom was pregnant. Women often suffer from depression, and so they deemed that this was safer to treat women's depression while pregnant because it was safer to the baby than other medication alternatives, which may be true, but I'm pretty sure if you zap the mom and you kill her, baby ain't gonna make it.
Yep.
Now, legally today, in the United States, treatment of electroshock therapy has to be consensual. That is, unless it's ordered by a court. So, there are...
Court order can be... So that's basically saying that the court is overriding because if somebody's not of sound mind...
if they're a danger to self or others, it could potentially be used. So it's more commonly used as a court order for somebody who's actively suicidal. They can be put on a 72-hour hold, and while they're on the 72-hour hold, they can get electroshock therapy.
And now, are we using the same amount of voltages? Are we still inducing seizures? Is that what's
today
happening? Or is it a lower?
Today it's between 70 and 120 volts, and it's the most you're going to get is 6 seconds at a time. But most of it's like 100 milliseconds, so very quick zaps. So
literally just a zap of electricity through your body to try to restart.
And
something,
it's not the gear here isn't to create that seizure, although. It can happen.
It can happen, but that's not they're not. So they've realized that it wasn't the seizures that was providing the benefits. It was the bits of electricity, essentially.
Yeah, that's going through the brain, restarting those neurons, so to speak. Now, in American history, we have entirely been fair to women in court cases. Britney Spears totally needs her conservatorship because she is not of sound mind. So that is a prime example of how this could never be abused onto women who might not be agreeing with their husband, might want to leave their husband. Their husband might make some shit up about how they've said that they're suicidal and get a court order.
Well, but if I'm sorry, but Tommy, if they're making something up, it's basically his word against her word, and it's a he said, she said bit, and so the courts are going to have to decide who's telling the truth. And I'm guessing
that male judge
was kind of split right down the middle, and they listened to reason and everything else, and didn't just automatically side with the male and say that, oh, this woman is hysterical. And
because the majority of judges in the United States are male.
She really doesn't want to get electrocuted, and she's really upset about it. She's hysterical, so she definitely needs to get electrocuted.
Yeah, pretty much. Judges can and do order this treatment up to today. And why, you ask? Because studies have been shown to be somewhat effective. Like you said, you knew somebody who did voluntarily put it in there and did it. And I'm not saying it's not successful, but some of these studies might be a little skewed too, because if they're looking at people who are getting it involuntarily, putting into a 72-hour hold for suicidal ideations or for depression, and they're getting electroshock therapy, which some reports have said it is like torture being done to you, and like being raped because you're being strapped down against your will onto a table and people are poking and prodding you. Kind of like being
that's messed up.
There are people who said that the survivors of electroshock therapy have said, I lied to the doctor. I said, yep, totally feel better. Not suicidal at all anymore.
Stop.
Because how do you prove? Yeah, how do you prove that they're feeling better? How do you prove that they're not suicidal? How do you prove that they're not depressed?
And that's the trouble with a lot of psychological type studies. Is a lot of science is based on repeatable studies and results, and with most sciences, it's a hard result. It's numbers based, or it's percent based, or whatever the case is. But with psychology, you're depending on everybody that you do the study on to tell the truth and to be honest, and to have, especially when they're asking 1 to 10, where is this? Where's your happiness? This, that. It's gonna range every day.
Well, and
that's very hard to nail down that type of science.
And again, if it's somebody who's voluntary, like, look, nothing else has worked, I'm at my wit's end, please help me. That's a person you want to. That's a person you want to ask those questions to, because they're going to be more likely to give you an honest answer.
Yep.
Somebody who's
not, they're seeking help.
Somebody who's not voluntary, they're probably gonna be like, "Yep, totally worked. Let me go home."
It comes down to the whole psychology of torture, essentially, where torture is a useless tool to get information out of people, because
people are just
it's been proven time and time again. They're going to tell you whatever you want to hear for you to stop doing that.
Yep, yeah, very much so. So one of the big side effects of electroshock therapy is suicide, Johnny. So one of the things that we're trying to stop suicidal ideation. One of the side effects is suicidal ideation, which I guess is common along, because if you get antidepressant medications, almost all of them are like side effect of suicide.
Yeah, if you begin to have suicidal thoughts, disuse, stop use immediately and see a doctor and all that stuff.
One of
and I'm guessing it's just because that's such a hard part of the brain to treat correctly, and everybody's a little bit different, and it's all brain chemistry and everything. So I guess I can see that.
Now, as a leading side effect, there is a very famous person who died of suicide after getting electroshock therapy. Ernest Hemingway is actually going to commit suicide shortly after receiving electroshock therapy at the Mayo Clinic in 1961. Before he dies, he allegedly tells his biographer, or at least this is what his biographer says. His biographer wrote it down, said that this is what he told him, so we'll take it as that. He says, and I quote, "Well, what is the sense of ruining my head and erasing my memory, which is my capital, and putting me out of business? It was a brilliant cure, but we lost the patient." Which, because the big side effect of electroshock therapy is put you kind of in an amnesic state. So
and a lot of artists or kind of creative type people who are depressed or suicidal or whatever, they take medication, and they don't like it because it just kills it. Yes, my depression's gone, but now I'm a zombie. I am, I don't think or feel anything. I'm just going through the days and the motions, and it's because it's not the right medication. That's why depression's so hard to sort through and to fix, is because all the different types of medication, and depends on your brain chemistry and everything else, and you have to find the right one, or else it just makes you essentially a walking husk of a person. And so, I could see where somebody who makes a living on their writing is like, I can't do that. I need this bit
I
of
need
me.
to.
I just don't want
I need
death
to,
part.
I think a lot of if you read a lot of Hemingway stuff, it's like I think he kind of needed to be a little sad to make this stuff good, because sometimes that's how it works. But it's good to know. And this is kind of, we're just wrapping it up now, because I mean I could go on for the ethical debate and all that kind of stuff. But
nah, we don't need to get into that. We're a history channel, not an ethical channel.
But it's good to know that that in the United States we've progressed. It's 2021 now. We've progressed so far with mental health awareness and mental health treatment that we're still using a technique that was developed during World War II by the Axis powers.
Are we still trying to convert the gays with it?
I'm sure that there are definitely religious institutions that are out there that probably still try to use it that way. And to be fair, final note here, most of the electroshock therapy is actually done in private clinics. It's not something that's done to a large degree in like actual state-ran hospitals or private, it's those private mental health institutions that are doing it.
So a lot of it these days is more on a volunteer type basis.
It's supposed to be, yeah. Today it's supposed to be consensual unless court ordered otherwise. So hopefully they don't Britney Spears you.
That's it for this week in Historic Hindsight. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and join us next week when we talk about a poor Russian cosmonaut.